I am a professor of analytics and cybersecurity now at Louisiana Tech University. I moved here last summer. I built the program at Georgia College and taught there for a number of years. I went to industry for a while and worked for JLL and all the cool people at JLL for a while. My mom got extremely ill and was in and out of the hospital, and her only deathbed wish was that I would go back to being a professor because it's what I love, it's what I enjoy, it's what I'm best at. So I left JLL, interviewed with some universities, and chose Louisiana Tech as my next stop. In the interim, I started working with Dresner Advisory Services. So if you want to know more about Dresner Advisory Services, let me know. Happy to discuss what we do. Howard Dresner coined the term business intelligence back in the 80s. When he was at Gartner, he started his own advisory company, and I went to Tableau conference representing Dresner last year. So that was kind of fun. So I'm all over the map. I do all kinds of stuff, but I am totally colorblind. And as I mentioned, most people don't really understand it. So I'm going to run through this really fast for you today. I'll go a little slower at TC. I'll go a lot slower for the video that I'll post for Viz for Social Good and our work with the WHO, talking about accessibility. But if you want to make your dashboards more accessible, there's lots of things you can do, and color is one of them. So first of all, I want to show you how we who are colorblind, especially those of us who are totally colorblind, how we see things. I want to talk about what colorblind is and why I believe a lot more people are colorblind than know it. We'll take a quick test. We'll look at some of the tests, but we'll do more when I have more time. I want to show you what it looks like for us. So show you real world what it looks like using one of my favorite tools, or a couple of my favorite tools, and I'll post in the chat my favorite tools to use to help you choose better colors. Give you some quick advice, yeah, so that's what we're going to do today. We're just going to fly through this. So this is one of my favorite pie charts. I'm a pie chart guy. I like pie charts. I think they work, and I think this one works. Are you colorblind? Most of you know. Some of us are, but no, we can't see the colors to tell you whether we are or not. So how do we see colors? Most of you grew up with the color wheel, which we'll take a look at in a few minutes here. But most of you grew up with the color wheel where you said, okay, we've got red and yellow and blue. And we mix red and yellow, and that makes orange. And we mix yellow and blue, and that makes green. And we mix blue and red, and that makes purple. Well, that's not how your eyes work. Your eyes actually have rods and cones in them, about 100 million rods, which help you see at night, and about 6 million cones, which help you see color during the day. If you want to know what it's like to be colorblind, go out at midnight, turn all the lights off, and then try and see color. You can't really see it because you don't have enough cones. You have a lot more rods. The rods allow you to see at night, but you don't really see color. You see color when it's pitch dark, about the way I see color all the time, even with the light. And so we have rods and cones in our eyes that allow us to see the color. And the majority of the cones are green, allow us to see the green colors. The second largest number of cones that we have allow us to see the red colors. And then we have very few cones which allow us to see the blue colors. And so as you can see in this little shot here, that red and green cones allow us to see the yellows and the oranges, the browns. Those are what the red and the green cones allow us to see. And when you have all three of those cones together, that's what allows you to see white. So a lot of people think, oh, well, white is the absence of color. No, white is actually all of the color combined together. And what's interesting is your computer monitor, which most of you are looking at in order to see this, it's also an RGB monitor, red, green, blue monitor. And so our computer monitors work the same way as our eyes do. So we really ought to be making our data visualizations so that you can see them correctly with your eyes. So again, Red cones are about 64% of what we have. Green cones are 32%. Blue cones are only about 2%. And the cones are what allow us to actually see the color. And it's funny, if you Google color blindness, this is what Google will come back and tell you. Oh, color blindness does not directly lower your life expectancy. However, it could affect someone, for example, by making them not able to tell the difference between red and green on a stoplight and being killed in an accident. This is why I keep giving this talk, and this is why I will continue to keep giving this talk, because it's normally the first thing I get. It's the first thing my daughter gets. My daughter is actually colorblind, and most people think only guys are colorblind. No, females are colorblind as well, and my daughter has some colorblindness. And the first thing she gets asked, first thing I get asked is, oh, how do you know it's red, green, and yellow at the traffic light? We can see the color. We really can. It's just not as good as you can. It's different, but we still see it. So again, you've got some blue cones, some green, some red. If you have trouble seeing green, your green cones have kind of shifted over towards your red cones, or you've lost some green cones. If you can't see green at all, the way everybody else does, you have no green cones. So again, this is 6 million cones. So if you can't see green at all, you've lost a lot of cones in your eyes. Another thing that I was pointing out when I ran this through in my practice session is that you also lose rods and cones as you get older. So as you get older, you will start having trouble with colors, because your rods and your cones are how you see color. So again, it's not just this 8 to 10% that all these scientists keep saying, and all these people keep saying in all these presentations. It's less than 10% of the population. Why should we care? No, it's everybody. Everybody, in my opinion, has some color blindness. Some more than others, like myself, who I have cone monochromatism, which means during the day, I see everything in gray tones, just like I see at night. So I actually see at night pretty good, because I'm used to seeing things like I would see at night, because I don't have the cones in my eyes in order to see color during the day. And so again, it's not 10%. It's not an on or off condition. All of us have a certain percentage of those cones. The more cones you have, the easier it is for you to see color. The less cones you have, the more eye strain you have trying to see those colors, and the more you're like me, not seeing them at all. So again, I'll go into this in more depth when I have more time. Again, we all grew up with that color wheel, that it's red and yellow and blue that makes all these colors, and it's not. It's red and green and blue, which actually make up those colors. So let's take a test. Let's see if any of you out there are colorblind. And I'm in presenter mode, so I can't see the chat, but go ahead and throw into the chat what you can see. These are some of the standard tests that we give. And so you should be able to see a number in each one of these. And so I'm kind of cheating and saying, okay, here you go. Can you see these? How well do you see them? And depending on which one of these plates you're struggling to see the number in, that's a potential area where you don't have enough cones. And so you've got a little bit of color blindness. And so we can test you for sure, which I'm more than happy to do with anybody who'd like to sit down and have a really long color test. We don't have time today, obviously. I won't even have time at Tableau conference to do it a lot. But you should be able to see 6, 3, 5, 9, 5, 8, 5, 9, 10 in those. And again, I've done it for many, many years, so I know there's the 6, and I know there's an 8, and I can teach myself to see the 9 in there, but it's a real struggle. And this one here, I really have trouble with that one. Again, I've done them so much that I know that there's a 10 buried in there. But then what we do is we start emphasizing a color, or we start taking a color out. And as we start taking colors out and emphasizing others, then these suddenly don't become so easy for us to see. So in that middle, are you seeing that 958, or are you struggling some in order to see the 958 across the middle? You might have some color blindness, and it might be due to one of those rods and cones. So in these slides today, just very quickly, I'm just taking you through putting lots of green in and taking the red out, or throwing lots of red in and taking the green out, just to see if maybe you don't have as good of a red and green color vision as you thought. Can you still see those numbers in those circles? And again, if I pull them back and I make them smaller, then everybody is having a little bit of trouble of trying to see those numbers in those circles. And that's what it's like to be colorblind. When my kids were little, before they knew their letters and numbers, we had these kind of charts, which are kind of fun because you see images in them. So we can start testing kids at a very young age to see if they're colorblind or not, by using these tests where we've got an image there. And so these are fun to see whether you can see the image. And again, some of these are easier than others. So again, what does it look like for us? Well, welcome to my world. Which one of these is the well done steak? Which one is it? Which one is the well done steak? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Because I don't like rare steak. I'm like my dad, I want my steak cooked pretty good. So I'm looking for the red in the steak. And if I can't see red, then it's pretty hard to see that it's actually number 4 is the well done steak, and the other 3 are rare. There's too much red there. But again, if I have trouble seeing red, then it makes it hard for me to choose it. Let's say you're a scientist and you're in the lab, and the scientist says, hand me the pink liquid. Which one of these is the pink liquid? I've taken the red out. You have no red cones. Can you see the pink liquid? Probably not. Can you guess which one it is? Because it's number 1 is the pink liquid there. One of my favorite ones, I've worked with Home Depot in the past. Home Depot loves their orange. They splash it all over their website. Well, if I have trouble seeing green, that's what happens to their orange, because orange is made with some green in it. And so if I have trouble seeing that green, then I have trouble seeing your orange, and your orange doesn't quite look like what you thought it was going to look like. Here's what happens when I have trouble seeing red, and I take that red out of your orange. I have trouble seeing it. Fox Baseball likes to show these spray charts. I love them. What a great use of analytics to show where a baseball player is more likely to hit the ball when they hit the ball. But they use all of these colors. And again, just to show you, that's what it looks like to me. There is no color. It's all shades of gray. And so when you're using all that color, it's hard to do. When I go to the Office Depot, Office Max, or one of these places where I can get all these pens or crayons or colors and all these things, you think, wow, look at all these colors. Again, that's what I see. When Tableau sent out, here's the Tableau slides that we chose from to put our slide decks together for the conference. And they sent us this slide deck with all of these fabulous colors to choose from. Again, Tableau, this is our Salesforce. Here's what it looked like to me. So I'm trying to choose. And so I actually chose the yellow theme to use for the conference, because I can see the yellow theme better than I can see the pink and the green and the peach or whatever the 4th option is down there. So again, when you're choosing colors, you see a wide array of colors. When we have trouble seeing green, here's what your wide array of colors look like. At the conference, I'll be wearing my crazy map shirt because I love it. But most of you look at it and go, wow, that's a really loud shirt, Doc. Why are you wearing that? Well, on the right is what it looks like to me. It's really not that loud. It's kind of a cool map shirt. When we are looking at Colors, again, here's your rainbow colors. If you have trouble seeing green, that's what it looks like. If you have trouble seeing red, that's what it looks like. If you have trouble seeing blue, that's what it looks like. So we all see things a little bit different. One of the things I'll do at Tableau conference, we'll give a shout out to Kelly Martin. I loved Kelly Martin, and we can spend a whole day talking about Kelly and lots of stuff that Kelly did for the community. And you can still find Kelly's Tableau public profile out there, and she has a great walkthrough of how to create your own color palettes. So I'll walk through Kelly's profile, but again, you can find it out on Tableau public, and you can find that, and we'll walk through it. But kind of my conclusion is, if you use both colors and symbols, it will help us. If you keep it minimal, my rule of thumb and what I hold my students to is 3 colors. Since we have 3 sets of cones that allow us to see 3 different types of colors, let's keep our maximum number of colors to 3 in a chart. We don't need 10, we don't need 15, we can't see those. If you have to go above 3, then use some patterns or textures to kind of help us and pick out, because once we go past 3, they're all kind of 1/3 around that color scheme. Hopefully you didn't choose them right next to each other. You chose them around at 1/3 of the way around, making all these different colors. Once you choose a 4th, then 2 of them are too close together, and we're all going to struggle to see them. And so we should try and help out by using some patterns, or changing the colors or the hues or the saturations we can do. But again, most people say for color blindness, don't use red and green. Well, actually, there's lots of bad color combinations, and my favorite one to point out to my students is blue and purple. Blue and purple is the standard in HTML on websites. When I bring up a list of websites, they're blue. If I haven't visited them, if I click on it and go there and come back, it will change to purple. Well, guess what? If we're colorblind, we can't really see that you've added red into the blue, so we don't see it's purple, and we can't tell the difference of having gone to that site or not. So I would much rather people would run around and tell you, don't use blue and purple, not don't use red and green. Red and green can actually work better. So don't slowly rely on color to convey your message. Keep it a minimal set of colors. Use something else to clue us in, and avoid some of those bad color combinations. And again, at the conference, I'll go through and I'll show you that most of the colorblind palettes don't work. There they are. Don't really work that well. For those of us that are colorblind, the colorblind accessible palettes are not there. So we'll look at the Jets playing Buffalo, which is kind of a famous one. But again, red and green works. It really does work. If you keep it minimal, we can see that red, we can see that green up there that you're trying to highlight. Grab attention. 3 colors works great. Keep them separated out. Even if I can't see green, I can still tell the difference between those 3 colors. So that's a quick highlight. Does anybody have any questions? Anything you'd like me to go into more? Because again, at the conference, I will go into more. And in fact, I will tell you all about that dress that went viral, but I'm not going to do it today. You got to come back and see the full session at another time. So let me stop there, see if anybody has any questions, and I will throw some tools out. So at least you can start playing with some tools while you wait for a chance to see the full presentation at a later time.
I love your teaser there, Doc. I want to know about the dress.
You want to know about the dress? Yeah. I will.
Wait for it.
My cut and paste is not working. I'm on a Windows machine. I'm a Mac guy, and I'm on a Windows machine today, and it is just driving me crazy. But I did want to throw these into the chat
And while you're doing that, people can throw more questions in the chat as well.
Yeah, yeah. And so if you guys see some questions, if you want to throw them at me while I'm trying to cut and paste, there we go. I got one. This one will allow you, one of these will allow you to bring in an image and see what it's like for us being colorblind. And then another one of these allows you to take your web page. So like I did with the Home Depot page, you can just give it a URL and then say, what kind of color blindness do you want to see how it looks to somebody with that color blindness? And it will show you that. So one of these, you put an image in, one of them you put a URL in, and it will show you what it looks like. And I really urge people to do this, because you think, oh, I've got a good color combo. I love this color combo. Well, take a look at see what it looks like for those of us that are colorblind. May not be as good as you thought.
I love the simulators. In fact, the last time I saw your presentation it was 4 years ago. I can't believe that. Yeah, I did grab these links because when at the time I was teaching some data literacy classes, and I passed this along from you. So one of the questions in the chat says, any tips for adding patterns to Tableau?
Yeah. I think Tableau has a limitation there, right? We can't really do patterns. And it's something that I'm hoping we can work on. Another one of the projects that I work with is the Dubois, where they're doing the recreation of the famous African-American set of data visualizations. And those were all done in crayon. And I'm like, we need a crayon set of palettes so we can make our things look like crayon. I would use it all the time if we had it available. So yeah, they're in Tableau, you're really limited. In other tools, you'll find that they have those more, which is why some other tools are rated much better for accessibility than Tableau is.
I see the wheels turning, and Nicole's how to figure it out. She's such a designer. She's like,
there are hacks. There are hacks for everything. Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, you can make the bars transparent and put images underneath, but then it's not screen reader accessible as much. So
there you go. Yep. Your wheels are going in the right direction. That's why you're one of our Tableau visionaries. Zen
she really is. She sees it. One of the questions I think other people would have too, after looking at your screen and going, okay, wait, I couldn't see some of those numbers. My question would be, and maybe others would be as well, is, okay, well, how much impact is like it actually looking at a glaring screen? Is there?
Exactly. And that's what I do in the classroom, because I'm projecting them up on the screen. You guys remember college, high school, whatever, where so you're losing the color, you're losing the saturation. Welcome to the world of colorblind. That's what happens to us when we aren't doing that. And so you're getting a glimpse of what it's like to be colorblind, even if it's just partial. That's what it's looking like. And so I'm just trying to raise that attention that, like for a while there, I don't think currently I'm seeing a lot of it, but for a while everybody was going pastel. Everything were pastels. Well, pastels is a lack of color. That's all it is. Your red loses the red and it becomes almost pink. And your green becomes a very light green. Well, for us that are colorblind, that's the absolute worst thing to do. It's better for us to make it that darker color, like my map shirt is just obnoxiously dark green and red and blue. But for those of us that are colorblind, it's easier for us to see. And so while people love the pastels, if you're trying to make it accessible and make sure everybody's not straining their eyes to see the color, put that color back in there. And so again, if you don't even really need the pattern so much, even though I mentioned it, if you would just take, like, if you're going to end up and you're going to do a red and an orange, which are pretty close together, if you'll make it a light orange and a dark red, that will make it easier for us. Or make it the dark red and the light orange. It'll make it better. But like for electronic stuff, when you're charging it, they love to do this. Here's the green means it's fully charged, and the orange is it's charging, and red means it has no charge. And half the time I look at it and go, what color is that? And I got to really concentrate and stare at it and see what it is. And that's what we're using, is just that small spectrum of colors down at the bottom there, when we should be trying to use colors all the way around there. Use some blue, use some red, use some green. Those are the colors that everybody can see better, even those of us who have some slight color blindness. For me, I'm always going to struggle, but if you can do those things for folks that have a little bit of color blindness, it's going to make it easier for me as well.
I think I took a great deal from the last time I heard your talk from when I was instructing. And for example, the red and the green, I remember you saying, a dark red and a light green, for example, could help with that contrast.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people could really learn so much from you, and these small tips that could change. Hey, we've heard all these rules, but wait, maybe there's more, or there's a tweak to it. So do you know if there is a way that people can see your talk if they're not going to Tableau conference? Are you?
Yeah, there's another way that folks can do that. Another thing I'm doing is part of my move here was I'm doing more research. So I'm going to be writing more papers, which is going to be doing more writing. I'm creating this course from scratch for any major to come in and learn analytics. And so I'm writing the book for it. And the book is tentatively titled Analytics Fluency. And I'm going to take folks to different levels of fluency depending on what their career is, what their needs are, how much they want to really learn about it. You can learn a little bit or you can learn a lot. And so topics will have the overview, but then they'll also go more in depth if you want to go more in depth. And I will devote a whole section of it to color blindness and all the things with color, because there's so much. Even at the conference, I'm not going to get into much other than the dress, a little bit of spoiler on the dress. It depends on what the color is around it.
Okay.
And so colors next to colors cause colors to not look right, even if you're not colorblind. Colors overshadow things. And so I'll throw a couple of those in there as a teaser, but we won't have time to talk about it in depth. But that's a whole nother discussion of what happens when you do have some of these colors next to each other. You're not seeing the color properly anymore. And so you really need to choose your colors wisely and take your time. And like I say, use the tools that I put in the chat to test it and see what it looks like, and then tweak your colors. Another thing people have been on me for years and years to do is to sit down and make some palettes and make them available and say, here's some palettes that really are helpful to me, and put them out. And so in the talk at TC, I'll show you one of them. That's a 5-color palette that works pretty well for me. And so, yeah, that's something that I plan on doing as well. So I forgot on the last slide, I've got that you can find me on Twitter.
Do you want to share it?
Doc Kevin Elder on Twitter, and Doc Elder on LinkedIn, and kelder@lawtech.edu is my email. If folks want to contact me, do some follow-up. If anybody wants to be a beta tester on chapters of the book, let me know. My students are primarily doing it, but I will send out some drafts of the book as I go along with it. Hope to do a lot of writing over the summer.
I truly enjoy this talk. And I could hear it multiple times because I learn something new every time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is like coming home for a little while.